Yo, what's going on? Welcome to my collection room. All right, guys, so a little bit of a different video today. We are going to be showing off my collection. I collect a ton of different things, including vintage clothing, video games, and of course, Pokemon cards. I get asked in the comments all the time to show off my collection, what a vendor collects, what I've accumulated over time at shows and digging and finding all this stuff for years, buying out other people's collections. So let's check that out. So first thing, if you guys didn't already know, I am big into retro video games. That's what got me started into reselling at the years ago, probably at this point 15 years ago. So I have here a couple of CRT TVs and pretty much every single game system, retro of course, set up ready to be played at any time. So we've got some cool things. We've got the GameCube set up with 4 Wavebirds. Of course, wireless controllers are necessary with the Game Boy Player attachment so you can play GBA games on that. A nice DVD VHS player in case we're feeling a little throwback movie. NES top loader, Super Nintendo top loader, my favorite console, the N64. And then we've got the PlayStation 3 backwards compatible, Wii, Sega Dreamcast, Wii U, Sega Saturn. This really sweet original Xbox console signed by the voices of Master Chief and Cortana. Got that signed at a convention. They were both there, and they both worked on the game locally to where I live. So we got to talk about that, and I got to get my Xbox signed by them. So this is a really fun setup to play all types of retro games, which we will get into. I'll show you guys all the retro games, of course. But moving on over here to my glass case. This is at the top, we've got my Donkey Kong 64 Shrine. Now, I always say Paper Mario on the 64 is my favorite game of all time. But Donkey Kong 64 is definitely up there in the top 3. One of my favorite games, I've got a little poster signed by the composer of the Donkey Kong rap. If you guys aren't aware, when you boot up Donkey Kong 64, one of the greatest raps ever starts off. His name is Grant Kirkhope. He composed it, so I got that signed by him. I've got the Donkey Kong 64 complete N64 set, as well as a complete in-box copy and a sealed copy of the game with the strategy guide. Now moving down below, we've got a couple graded games. I've recently picked up a ton of sealed games and I've gotten them graded. We've got Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time on the N64, both graded a 9.6 A++. These were amazing finds for me. They were raw, sealed, and I graded them myself recently. And to get such high grades, the value on these guys, let me tell you guys, we're closing in on about $7,500 a piece for each of them, and I got them for a great deal. Like I said, graded them myself, so very happy to have them in my collection for an affordable price. In the back, we've got Super Mario Sunshine, first print on the GameCube, 9.8 A+. Recent sale on that one is around $7,500 as well. Moving down, we've got Paper Mario, like I said, my favorite game of all time. It's complete in box. Hopefully one day can have a sealed copy. But speaking of sealed, we've got the Paper Mario 1000-Year Door behind it, 9.8 A+. Next to it, Super Mario Odyssey, one of the greatest Switch games to come out, signed by the voices of Bowser and Peach. Hopefully you can get Charles, aka the voice of Mario's signature on there one day, but for now just Bowser and Peach. Then we've got Sega Sports. It's a Sega Genesis game. I'm not too big into Sega Genesis, but on the back it does feature my Washington State Cougars, so it was really cool to see a vintage video game having my team on there. So I decided to keep that one. Really cool up front in the case, we've got a Pokemon Diamond and Pearl double cartridge. This cartridge was only given out to GameStops, used in kiosks so that you could play demos of both Diamond and Pearl when you went into the store to see if you wanted to buy them or not. Now, a few of them ended up getting out, and I actually got this from an ex GameStop employee who just had it from working there. So very rare piece, very happy to have that. I'd love to get a custom case for it so it's like it's its own DS game, but for right now, it lays in the case. Moving on, finishing off the glass case, one of my grail sets that I would love to accomplish is the Mario and Luigi half art, full art poncho set, and as you guys can see, we've got the plushes already. Those were a pickup from a few years ago at Game On Expo in Arizona, along with the Baby Luigi and Baby Mario little playing cards and PSA 10s that I just love. So hopefully one day we can fill that up with the Mario and Luigi poncho. But let's move on. We've got this really insanely large Mario store display. This was from, I believe, 1996, and these were hung. There's a Kirby and a Donkey Kong as well as the Mario that stores would hang in their front window as advertisement and just to drag people into the stores. So I was able to get that from a old Nintendo employee that I met here locally. He had this and a couple other things that I was able to grab, and I just thought it was too cool to not keep. So it takes up a huge amount of space, but it lays pretty flat, and I just, gotta keep them. Next up, we've got the Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door. They remade this game on the Nintendo Switch. Love the Paper Mario series, and I went into GameStop, asked them if they had any merch. If you guys didn't know, you can go into GameStop and ask them if they have advertising or merch available for the public. Generally, they will not, as employees have first dibs, but you never know, you can get lucky, and that's what happened here. I was able to get a 4 set of this giant poster for Paper Mario the 1,000-Year Door on the Switch release. Got the perfect frames for them, and got them hung up perfectly in the game room. And if you guys are looking to add to your personal collection, check out today's video sponsor, Whatnot. Whatnot is a live auction platform where you can buy, sell, and auction off almost anything, including all of the stuff you've seen in the video so far: vintage clothing, video games, and Pokemon cards. There are 24/7 auctions running for all of these categories that you can hop in at any time and shop for deals. People run stuff for $1, so you get to decide the price on what you pay for items for your collection, and you never know what you're gonna find. So if you guys use the link down in the description or the QR code on the screen here, you can get $15 off your first purchase to use anywhere on the app. Enhance your personal collection by shopping on Whatnot and grabbing some amazing stuff for great deals. Thank you so much to Whatnot for sponsoring the video. Now let's get back into the collection tour. Alright guys, now moving on to the Pokemon wall. We have accumulated quite a nice Pokemon collection throughout the years. I've always been a fan, so this is just like a dream wall for me, and some of my favorite things in my collection are on this wall here. We started off with just collecting video games before getting too heavy into Pokemon cards. So we have a full set of all the Game Boy and Game Boy Color games complete in box. This was a long-term goal of mine, and when I would do gaming conventions, every now and then as a memento at the end of the show, I wouldn't buy anything for myself, but when I got close to finishing the set, I would make it a goal of mine to find a complete in box game that I needed and buy it for myself at the end of a show, just so I had a memory for the show. I know where I got it. So for example, Pokemon Leaf Green, I got my last time doing the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. We've got Pokemon Yellow up here that I got when I attended Game On Expo last year in Arizona. And a lot of the games I have accumulated from buying collections, but there are just a few of them that have special places in my heart because they have memories. They just remind me of the event that I was at. And that's what it's all about, is the nostalgia, the creating of memories, the joy that just looking at them brings to you, even if you're not playing them all the time. Because let's be honest, I've played all these games, but I'm not replaying them all the time. So it's just nice to have, nice to know that I can replay them, and nice to just tap into an old memory that brings you to a more enjoyable time. Not only all of the complete in box Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, but we also have Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS, 2DS, etc. And they had a ton of Pokemon stuff. So I was super excited to get this, including the 3DS XL that is special to me because this was a console that was given to me on Christmas from my family. And at that point, I was in my teenage years, and I kept the box, surprisingly, but I ended up selling it later down the road when I was done with gaming. So to get it back after all these years. Or this is actually a brand new console, never been opened, so very excited and happy to bring this one back into my collection. We've got the Solgaleo and Lunala Black Edition, another 3DS XL, the Pikachu Yellow Edition, and then the 2DS XL Pokeball Edition. And then moving on to Switches, we've got this really sweet Zacian and Zamazenta Switch Lite. And then at the very top, the Let's Go Pikachu full Nintendo Switch console. Now, not skipping over this for any reason other than I wanted to save it for a little bit later. We've got the Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness Limited Edition Bundle GameCube set right here, along with the Pokemon Coliseum bonus disc with Jirachi. And then hiding in the back here, we've got the game Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Now, very excited to own these, and I love Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, as a lot of other people do as well. And there's been rumors that the 30th anniversary will have something to do with Shadow Pokemon, so very excited about that. Hopefully, we see a rise of Pokemon XD talk, and maybe we can get a remake of this game coming to the Switch, who knows. But that's enough for the Pokemon video games on the shelf. Let's move on to the graded cards. Alright guys, so over the course of vending, I have had an amazing amount of beautiful cards come my way. The amount of cards that I have touched and passed on to other collectors and kept for myself, it's been, one of the most rewarding parts about being a vendor. So over the course of vending, my collecting habits have switched immensely. I have gone back and forth between collecting modern, collecting vintage, collecting everything and anything, trying to complete full sets, collecting singles, slabs, sealed. It's just changed so drastically as things come in and come out. While I was still deciding what I wanted to truly collect, I just, I made the decision to sell everything. Anything that comes into my collection is for sale, and that's kind of been how it's always been. Even if they're on the wall, they're technically still for sale, but I just don't advertise them or put them out. So it's kind of my way of keeping them while also telling myself they're also for sale. So these are some cards that I technically would get rid of, but they are part of my collection, so it would be basically impossible to get them out of my hands. So the cards on the wall here are cards that are either low pop or they're vintage and they bring me back to my childhood, or it's just, random cool stuff that I've accumulated through vending. So what I've whittled it down to that's left, so I've got them organized from year. So we've got up top, we've got 1999 with the first edition Fossil Zapdos, the very rare Grand Party and a PSA 10, and the Pikachu movie promo. Moving on, we've got a couple Gym Challenge, all first edition, Brock's Ninetales, Lieutenant Surge's Raichu, and Sabrina's Alakazam. Now, over here, we've got a couple of my Shinings. We've got Shining Kabutops first ed PSA 10, as well as the Shining Steelix, and then a really cool Legendary Collection Reverse Holo Vulpix that I got at Collecticon in LA. Now, one of my main focuses that I've kind of decided, the direction I want to go with my Pokemon collecting is, I think that my initial goal right now is I want to collect Aquapolis, Skyridge, and Expedition, all of the holos in a PSA 10. It's quite the lofty goal. They're big sets. They're very expensive sets with the crystals and a couple other big cards, Gengar, Arcanines, etc. But that is kind of what my main focus is going to be going forward for collecting. I think it's a goal where it's not going to hurt me too bad in terms of dollar amount, because it's going to take a long time to find these things. So I'm assuming it's going to be spread out enough where over time I can chip away at it. But let me show you guys right now what we're starting with, what I've accumulated so far. So from Expedition, we've got the Golem, Machamp, and Rapidash. And then from Aquapolis, we've got the Electrode, Lantern, and the Victory Bell. And then a little bit more of a dent into Skyridge. We've got Kabutops, Nidoqueen, Politoed, and then Steelix. And one of the big ones, we do have the Crystal Golem in a PSA 10. So a little bit more into Skyridge than Aquapolis and Expedition. But like I said, we're kind of just starting to decide that we're going to go this route with the collection. So if I see something low pop or something that I think is really sick, I'm going to keep it. But the main focus right now is going to be Aquapolis, Expedition, and Skyridge. So a cool set that you guys might have seen me complete in Las Vegas, thanks to Jar Chomp Collectibles. He hooked it up. We've got the Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard from EX Dragon, the full set of secrets in a PSA 10. So great set to have there. Moving on to the bottom corner, we've got a couple of getting into like the EX era. We've got reverse stamped Latias Rayquaza from Delta Species. The Rayquaza has been exploding in price recently. I picked it up for around $600 a few months ago, and I think the recent sale was around $3,000. So some of these low pop cards, they are amazing to hold because what is going on with the market right now, everybody's wanting low pop, and of course they don't sell very often. So when they do, it's usually a huge jump off the last sale. So very, very cool to have some low pop stuff in the collection. One of the earliest low pop cards I did pick up back at the second ever Front Row Seattle, the Skeptile reverse stamp from EX Emerald that I believe is a pop under 20, and at the time last sale on it was $400, and now it is going for a couple $1,000s. So just another example of some of these EX and reverse stamped holos that are super low pop just exploding in price. Now, the last thing on the shelf I want to talk about is my Evolving Skies booster box. This is the only booster box I currently have in my collection because I've gone back and forth, as I mentioned earlier, about collecting sealed, and honestly, I think sealed is probably the safest investment that you can make in Pokemon. I'm not necessarily planning on keeping this for the rest of my life, but I think that booster boxes and other sealed products have nowhere to go but up. It's a slow and steady investment, unlike some of the reverse holo stamped low pop stuff I was just talking about that could jump up on a dime and you could double your money in a month. The sealed stuff is more of a safe bet. You never know if the market is going to crash on the cards, and these low pop cards or some of these cards that have been steadily increasing for a long time are just going to drop in price. But with sealed, it's almost guaranteed to continue to go up with rip and shippers, and with the hobby being as popular as it is, you can almost always bet on sealed products. So I might start stashing away a couple booster boxes like this Evolving Skies one. This one is in beautiful shape because you never know what these could go up to. I think currently they're sitting around $1,900, which they just recently had a little bit of a jump from $1,500. So you're seeing it real time of these boxes going up. We had a huge Sword and Shield boom the other week or two where all of the booster boxes exploded in price. So that's just what they can do, and they generally don't decrease in price after a boom like that. They stay steady and they increase. And speaking of sealed, guys, if you guys want to grab some sealed product, you can check out swansemporium.com, our website where we have ETBs, booster packs, booster boxes, and so much more available for sale right now. We also sell graded guards, video games, plushes, and so much more on the website. So make sure to check that out if you want to grab some great stuff for great prices. That is it for the Pokemon wall. We do have a little bit more Pokemon stuff that I will show you guys in a second here, but we're going to move on to this small shelf of video games right here. Now, before I whittled it down to this small shelf, guys, there's more video games, don't worry, but this entire room used to be lined with shelves, Billy bookcases. I had over 2,000 video games in this room, but I came to the realization that I don't have time to play all these video games, so they're just sitting here collecting dust. I've never played half of the games that I have, more than half. I haven't, probably 90%. And so I could be getting these out to other collectors and other retro game enjoyers that would actually play the games. So what I decided to do was cut it down to the shelf that you're seeing here for not Nintendo. We have a lot of Nintendo stuff still that we'll get into, but PlayStation is a console I never grew up with. I never played it. I've played it very little to this day. But there's a couple games that, when I was thinning down my collection that just spoke to me or looked cool or were rare that I wanted to hang on to. A couple of ones that I want to highlight here are Haunting Ground on the PlayStation 2. This is one of the rarer games on the system. It goes for about $500 to $600. And all of the PlayStation 2 horror games are going to be up there in price. I don't like horror games. They scare me. But Johnny loves this game, and there's a lot of people that love horror games that come by, so it's always nice to have at the house. We've got PlayStation 5 stuff up top. PlayStation 5 is like my introduction to PlayStation. I love the console. I love the way the controller feels. So we've got this little monkey from Call of Duty, I believe, holding the PlayStation 5 controller. with a couple of games behind there. I've beaten Hogwarts Legacy, so I got the collector's edition. This was a really fun game that I enjoyed playing, and a couple others as well, such as God of War. Now, Xbox was a console that I grew up with. It was mostly just a Halo machine. Didn't do any other gaming besides Halo. Occasionally we'd play Fusion Frenzy with some friends, but for the most part it was just all online Halo. Never got into Call of Duty, so you're not going to see any Call of Duties here, but I wanted to make sure I had all of the Halo editions, or all of the special editions from all of the Halos. Then Sega, another console I never grew up with. I never knew anybody who had a Sega, but I kept some of the expensive. As you guys can see, we've got the Working Designs logo here. If you guys aren't familiar, if you see the Working Designs logo on a video game, you're basically guaranteed that it's going to be worth some money and it's going to be a great game. So I kept the Working Designs stuff and the Sega Genesis Minis, so that if I ever really wanted to play a Sega game, I could plug in the Sega Genesis Minis that are loaded up with a ton of classics, and I could play it that way on HDMI. Now, at the bottom, super excited to show you guys these. New addition to the collection, we've got the Have a Seat Labubus. We just recently picked these up in SoCal for the Gaming Expo. I'll tell you guys, we were so bored on Sunday because it just was a slow day that we had to do a little bit of gambling. So what a better way to do it than get Labubus. We tried them out. I don't know why, but the thrill, the excitement of ripping open the case and trying to get a certain color, it was just riveting. So after getting a couple of colors, I wanted to get the whole set. So thankfully, I only had to open up 9 boxes to get all 6, and they're like $45 each. But we ended up getting the full set. No secret, so we still need to get that one. But I don't know. I've been contemplating getting into the Labubus. Do you guys want to see Labubus? Let me know. We could definitely start selling them, but leave me a note down in the comments if you guys want to see Labubus. Really cool here from somebody on Instagram. Her name is Pixel Parts. She makes these really sweet designs of a broken down controller, all the different parts, and just puts them into a little art display piece so that they can be used and enjoyed even after breaking. So don't throw out your old controllers. Don't throw out your old consoles. If they're not working, they can either be repaired or they can be turned into some beautiful art. So that's it for the gaming shelf. We're going to bust into this Nintendo drawer that I have. This is from the late 90s. I believe it was from a Toys R Us. It came with an entire top piece, but they broke down and of course were sold separately. I got this Nintendo drawer in a Xbox Series X trade. One way that I've accumulated a ton of this stuff from this collection is doing trades, whether it be Pokemon cards, whether it be video games. But I had a Xbox Series X back when they were harder to get, and I put it on Facebook, and somebody reached out and said, hey, I've got this Nintendo drawer if you wanted to trade. So it was a no-brainer for me. These drawers are extremely hard to find, and they run around $2,000 to $3,000 at this point. So I grabbed it, and let me show you guys what's inside. So nothing special really up top. We've got just a hodgepodge of random stuff. Over here we've got a Paper Mario Nintendo Power. Always keep all my Paper Mario stuff. And then of course underneath some Pokemon stuff. Let's Find Pokemon. These are books from my childhood, so I wanted to hang on to those. This right here is just my old cards, Yu-Gi-Oh, sports cards, just random stuff I've collected over the years. I don't know what's in there, older, newer, who knows? I don't go through it ever. But got a couple of video game stuff like an original Game Boy Advance SP, and then my beautiful graded guard collection. I'm trying to go for 2 of every limited color. You guys know I love my graded guards. Unfortunately, my rainbows don't have the box. They're loose, but we still have them. All right, now this is where most of the games are. This middle shelf here, this one is all of my Nintendo games, guys. We've got GameCube, Wii, N64, Super Nintendo, NES, and some Game Boy here. These are what's left of my Nintendo collection. I really did thin it down, I promise you guys. But what's here is some of my favorite stuff, some rare stuff, and a little bit of everything in between. So with GameCube, guys, some of the most expensive games on the console. We've got Disney Sports Basketball, complete in box. This one is going for around $1,000 at this point. We've got Go-Go Hyper Grind and Gotcha Force. Both of these games running around $500 to $600. Other notable expensive games on the GameCube, we've got Cubivore Survival of the Fittest, about $500 to $600 as well. NCAA College Basketball 2003, a late release from Sega that got canned really quickly, so didn't sell very well, about $500 there. And then, of course, we have some of the classics as well, such as Zelda Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time, Luigi's Mansion, Metroid Prime, Simpsons Hit and Run, Mario Kart, Mario Party, and some other great ones. Now, for the Wii, there's so many Wii games. There's probably, I think, like 4,000 or 5,000 Wii games out there, and so there's just too many. And I don't really love the controls of the Wii, so I slimmed it down pretty good. Kept only the classics here, such as Mario Party, Dokapon Kingdom, which is a really fun Mario Party clone that's a little bit more evil. So don't play that one with your friends if you want to continue being friends. We've got Mario Kart, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, some of the more fun games, and of course Paper Mario and Super Smash Bros. Down here we've got a couple complete in box N64 controllers and some of the best games on the system, like the Banjo-Kazooies, GoldenEye, Yoshi's Story, Mario Kart, and a Majora's Mask as well. There's unfortunately some real classics that I do not have because I only collect complete in box now. I used to collect cartridges, but for now it's only complete in box. I really want to keep my collection full of the best of the best. I don't want to be cluttered. I've done the cluttered. I've done the hoarding collection. So really for now, if it's not complete in box, if it's not in great condition, I don't want to keep it. So unfortunately, I don't have an open copy of such things like Ocarina of Time, Super Mario 64, some classics. But we'll get them one day, and I'm not itching to play them right now. If I really wanted to, I could find a way to do it through emulation or a different way. So Super Nintendo, NES, some consoles that, I don't really tap into too much, but if I did, these would be the games that I would want to play. One of the greatest games on the Super Nintendo, Illusion of Gaia, right here. I recently just picked that up and played it, and wow, I enjoyed the heck out of it, so very happy to have that one. And then, of course, some Game Boy games, the Zeldas, the Metroids, the Marios, and the Mega Mans. Now, guys, for the last shelf, there's nothing crazy here. This was kind of like the cream of the crop shelf, but down here we do have my Switch games and then a random Sega Nomad and Breath of Fire. So we've got just a hodgepodge of Nintendo Switch games that I've collected throughout the times. It's very easy to get a large amount of Switch games when you buy a collection because there's so many games. Same with the Wii. There are thousands of Nintendo Switch games, and when people sell their collections, they generally have a ton, and they're not very expensive, honestly. So a lot of these games you could probably find in the $15 to $25 range, and there's a lot of good ones. I mean, this is Lego Star Wars, one of the classics I played on the GameCube. They almost have a remake for everything, so there's a remake on the Switch for this. We've got Super Mario RPG. They just remade this one, a Super Nintendo classic, and I think this one you can find nowadays for about $30. So a lot of remakes, a lot of upscaled games from the past, and just a bunch of cool stuff for the Switch. And I just don't play it that much, and I had to whittle it down a little bit to games that I can actually see myself playing in the future. Now, guys, that's all for this room, but unfortunately, the collection has spilled into the office a little bit that we'll show you guys. Like I mentioned before, I can't say this enough. I was a hoarder at one point with just games cluttered all over the walls, basically floor to ceiling, games, cards, everything. And when you're collecting a ton of stuff, it just gets to be too much too fast. And so make sure you guys are collecting within your space. I mean, it's okay to have a storage unit or to have a garage with some stuff in it. But if it's stuff that you truly care about, make sure it's on display. Make sure you guys have the room for it. It's part of the fun of collecting is to be able to see what you have and smile when you see it and just reminisce or remember how you got it. So my issue was things were in boxes, things were cluttered, things were put away, and I just lost my joy of having it because I wasn't looking at it, I wasn't seeing it. And so when things are put away, for me personally, it's not part of my collection. It's just an item I'm holding on to for either investment or to sell later or just for no reason. And so it's really important for me to have my collection out and available for people to see and enjoy, because if it's not, it's just another item. It's just something else that's stored away. So without further ado, let's show you guys what some of the stuff that is stored away but also visible. We've got up here all a bunch of consoles and toys and some other stuff that is still technically on display, but just put away a little bit more than I would like. But it's still available to be seen by everybody. So we've got some cool toys such as the Zelda Majora's Mask 3D Skull Kid and this Yoshi's Mario Kart toy. Things like the TurboGrafx 16. These are mini consoles loaded up with games. So if I ever wanted to play TurboGrafx, I could just bust this out. And then we've got consoles, GameCubes, Donkey Kong Bongos, Nintendo Switches, Wii U's, just a bunch of different consoles I've collected over the years, all complete in the box. And then, of course, we've got a couple of toys up top. Castlevania, a great Netflix series. These are some toys from there, and then some vintage Ocarina of Time toys as well. But yeah, guys, that is pretty much everything that is in the office. Everything else, like I said, is out on display as it should be. But there is one last thing that I do want to show you guys. It is my vintage t-shirt collection. A lot of you guys may have seen some t-shirts that I've been wearing at events. I get a few messages on Instagram asking, where do you get your shirts? Where do you get your Roundma shirt? Where do you get your Pokemon shirts? And guys, I've sourced these vintage shirts over the last couple of years. I have a friend that owns a vintage store, and so I love to reuse and bring back to life some of the vintage clothing out there because, guys, there's too much recycled clothing in the world, and honestly, the vintage stuff is way better than the newer stuff. So let's dive into it. All right, we're just going to pull these out. Couple things. We got a hat here. We've got Pokemon World Championship 2005 vintage hat with Charizard on the back. This is sweet. Found this at a garage sale, actually. We've got a Bloody Wolf TurboGrafx shirt. Just recently picked this up in a big collection. A couple anime t-shirts. Altered Mind and Burn Up. Super Mario 64 shirt. We've got a Tenchi Muyo anime t-shirt. This one is one of my favorites. We've got the Nintendo Snowball Fight t-shirt with Mario and Luigi throwing snowballs. This was given out at a Nintendo Christmas party back in the early 90s to employees. So there's a gray variant and a blue variant. Very rare to find as it was given out to a small amount of people. And just an amazing design and great shirt that I love to wear. And then we've got another anime shirt. If you guys didn't know, pretty big into anime. We've got a Heat Guy J shirt. The infamous Ranma watermelon t-shirt that you guys saw me wearing at SoCal. Appleseed. We do have a couple sports tees, of course. We've got this vintage faded Orlando Magic skeleton dunking basketball tee. Pretty sick. I love the fade on there. And then we've got the big head Ken Griffey. As you guys know, I am based out of Washington, so we've got the Seattle Mariners vintage Ken Griffey tee here that my amazing girlfriend got me. We've got Ninja High School, and last but not least in this, we've got a block crew neck, just standard Nintendo from the 90s. And then, of course, which one I'm wearing, we've got a Sega Sports vintage t-shirt. So always looking for more vintage clothing. I love the look of them. I love the feel of them. I love just reusing the old clothing and not bringing more and more waste into the world. So really, really happy to have a collection like this. And guys, that's really it. That's really everything that I have now. To being honest, if we would have done this collection video a year ago, it probably would have been about 3 hours long with how much stuff that I used to have. Very, very glad that I have gone ahead and condensed it down to just really the stuff that I really care about and what makes me happy. So a little bit of everything, guys. We got vintage clothing. We do have some sneakers. We're not going to get into the sneakers, though, because they're put away. But I collect pretty much everything, just like I said, what I enjoy. So I hope that you guys also collect what you enjoy, because that's what makes collecting fun. It makes it enjoyable. What pushes you on the journey. And guys, this is one of the reasons that I got into vending and selling and reselling all of these things, was because I wanted to collect. I wanted these amazing toys and trinkets, but I didn't want to work and spend my own money on them and buy them online. I wanted to hustle and find them and hunt for them. And now it's just whatever comes my way. If I hunt for it, if it just organically comes to me, it is just such an enjoyable experience, because it's about the adventure. It's about how I got there. It's about what event that I got it at, which garage sale, which collection, which whatever it is. There's a story behind almost everything in this game room. So thank you so much, you guys, for coming in, asking about my collection, wanting to see what I have. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing what a vendor, what a just a normal guy that's been collecting and reselling for years has in his personal collection. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this type of video. Let me know down in the comment what your favorite item in my collection was. If you want to see more videos like this behind the scenes, and leave the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. But now it's time for you guys to get out of here. I got some work to do, so peace out.